Against the 53 military veterans who allegedly held 2 ministers and a deputy minister hostage is expected to resume this morning for formal bail application. Yesterday, the accused appeared in the Kgosi Mampuru Correctional Facility court in Pretoria on charges of kidnapping. Now, the state is not ready to proceed with the matter due to insufficient information. And arguing on behalf of the veterans, Advocate Dali Mpofu said that their detention was unlawful and implored the court to dismiss the state's request for a 7-day postponement. And to help us unpack some of these developments and the legalities, the legal merits of the case against the accused, we join now by legal commentator, Advocate Modidima Mannya. Advocate, good morning. Thanks so much for your time.
Good morning, Sakinat. Good morning to your listeners.
So, very interesting, the arguments that were made yesterday. But just going to central to all of this was, of course, what the state was saying in terms of the charges that will be brought against the accused. So, first off, they put kidnapping on the table. Let's talk to that in light of what we saw and heard had unfolded allegedly and the charges that the state say will still be populated further.
Yes, my understanding is that there was some sort of a hostage drama, which means that the 2 ministers and the deputy minister were prevented, obviously forcefully, from leaving the room where the meeting was held. And that on its own would be unlawful because it constitutes a deprivation of liberty and it's a threat to the security of a person. So in that context, they would have, at face value, kidnapped the 2 ministers and the deputy minister.
Advocate Mannya, the question then became, so who exactly is charged with the kidnapping, preventing the ministers from leaving? And there was a whole discussion and arguments that ensued around the doctrine of common purpose. So let's just speak to that and how it is applied, foreseen in South African law.
Well, from what it seems, the police arrested 53 people. 52 appeared in court. I think the 53rd is in hospital because I think there was a report that there were 3 people who were injured. It seems that the state intends to charge all 53 of them. And of course, it will rely on the fact that they were all active participants in the act of kidnapping or whatever criminal offense that they charge them with. But the state still has to prove in respect of each one of them that they actually were part of the commission of an offense. It does not necessarily mean that because you were in the room, you were part of the commission of an offense.
And to that point, this doctrine of common purpose, for example, there were initially 56 people who were arrested, but 3 of them were later found to have been hotel staff. So does that strengthen in some way the defense's case when it comes to disproving this notion, the doctrine of common purpose? Because some of the people could argue that they were not responsible for locking the doors, as an example.
Well, look, I'm not sure how the group itself is going to explain itself. Firstly, I think they had a legitimate meeting which was agreed upon. But from the reports, that meeting ended at a point with a disagreement or an agreement that it can't continue. Now, what that meant is that those who were in the meeting ought to have been free to leave the meeting. And it is at that stage, as we understand, that the 2 ministers and the deputy minister, and obviously those who were not part of the group of 53, would have been prevented from leaving. And the special task force had to intervene, which means that there was a need for force to release those who were held allegedly against their wishes and will in that situation. But one of the leaders has said that this hostage thing was necessary because these people don't listen. And it seems that they are reported to have indicated that they were going to hold them there until their demands are met. So the issue is obviously whether this was pre-planned, whether the entire group went there with the understanding and appreciation that they are going to hold these people there until their demands are met. So it is in that context that the question of whether each one of them or all of them is going to be held responsible is going to be determined.
And how serious are these charges, Advocate Mannya?
Well, look, they are serious. I mean, the issue of the deprivation of liberty is a very serious matter. I mean, it's not something that you can just ignore. Of course, the context of this may have a bearing, having regard to the fact that there may be legitimate demands, there may have been a misunderstanding, but that is a matter of evidence about what really transpired. But a charge of kidnapping is a very serious charge on its own.
So just as a final thought, how difficult is this going to be for the state to actually carry this case and prove that all 53 people who were arrested should be held responsible for what transpired last week?
Well, as you know, in our law, the onus is on the state to prove beyond reasonable doubt that each of the accused had committed an offense. So it's not for them to prove that they committed an offense. So the two ministers and the deputy minister and probably the hotel staff who were there will obviously have to assist the state in giving evidence that demonstrates who were the active participants. I think this is the general problem you have when there's a group activity. You know, it's like even in an employment situation, you can actually have group misconduct where, for instance, during a strike or a protest, a group of workers behave in a particular way. You might not be able to identify who specifically, but in this case, in a criminal matter, it is a requirement that the state must prove beyond reasonable doubt. So it might be easy, it might be uphill. Easy in the sense that it seems that the people involved themselves seem to have made a very clear pronouncement that they intended to do this thing. Now, if each one of them had intended to do it, or if it is proved that this was pre-planned, it will be difficult for the accused to explain themselves. At the same time, if the other accused were to say, look, I was not involved, I didn't associate myself with this, I didn't touch anybody, I didn't prevent anybody from leaving, it will be difficult for the state to prove in respect of each individual.
Legal commentator, Advocate Modidima Mannya, speaking to us there about that court case that will kick off again today for bail hearing in the matter involving the 53 accused of kidnapping, and that's the charge on the table at the moment after a hostage drama at a Pretoria hotel last week where the Minister of Defence, her deputy, and the Minister in the Presidency were held hostage by military veterans. With that, it's time for Vusiwe to bring us the latest sports update.